This is Lisa Tucker, host of The Book Cover, which showcases local literary personalities. So listen to The Book Cover on the borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover. Hi, you're listening to The Book Cover. I am Lisa Tucker, and you are on the borderline. And today I have with me author Stephen Mezzomo. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm excited that now I missed the boat. This is your second book that we're going to be talking about. You've already written 2 books.
My second book just came out.
Right.
On February 22nd, so I'm working on the third currently.
Wow. And I love this so the name of so are they're all in the October Fall World series, correct?
Yes. Yes, there's a number of different authors that write in that world.
And I love this concept. So explain to me, first of all, explain what the October Fall World is.
Well, the October Fall World takes place in today's environment, and what happens is an electromagnetic pulse hits the U.S. in different parts of the country, and everything with an electromagnetic pulse, all the electronics are fried, communications are fried, vehicles don't work. It's basically everything with an electronic circuit is no longer works. And what this world does, that was created by Raventhorn Books, is different authors write about their points of view with different characters, different situations in different parts of the country. And it gives a wide variety of kind of the same disaster fiction genre, but from different perspectives.
Right. And I love that because it's the same sort of a situation from different parts of the world, like different parts of the U.S.
Yeah. There's some, and everyone is unique. There's where certain authors, they have, there's different villains, different climates, Michigan versus California.
Oh, sure.
There's all these different situations that people have to survive in, and that's what makes it a very, very unique series.
Right. How did you get it? How did you discover this series? Had it already been going? Had there already been a number of books when you sort of dove into the world? And how did you become aware of it?
Well, during COVID, I read a lot of books, and I just had more time on my hands because we were forced to work from home. So I would put in my full day, and then we really couldn't go anywhere. There was just nowhere to go. Everything was closed. So I just decided to read some of my usual authors, the more popular ones, and then I came across this book called October Fall. And when I asked about, hey, what's a good book to read, and there was already over 25 books in the series, and I read them all, and I was really fascinated by the disaster fiction genre. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other authors in this world, but I was really like this one because, like you said, it's the same situation, just different part of the country.
Right. So
when I read them all, I had an idea, and I said, well, maybe I can write one. So I reached out to the editor and one of the owners, Boyd Craven Jr., and I said, hey, I would like to talk to you about writing a book. And he said, sure. And I told him about my idea. We had a phone call, and he said, okay, let's write a few chapters and see what happens. And he liked what I wrote, and we continued on brainstorming together, working together, coaching me, and giving me advice. And a couple months later, we had a book.
Wow! So it only took you a couple of months.
That's how it all came about. Yeah, when I take something on, I really try to dive into it, and
no kidding.
It was just one of those things where I had so many ideas and thoughts, and with good with the good coaching by Boyd, he helped me. I just got better and better as I was writing, and I was able to just crank it out. So I think I inquired about writing a book on September 13th is when I first inquired about it, and then we did the release on November 18th.
Wow.
So it was rather quick.
No kidding. You just really turned it out.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was fun, but it was challenging in some cases because when I tried to do things a little bit different or experiment, the feedback was I didn't, Bordy was very nice, of course, and he said, I really didn't like the flow of this chapter. It was maybe a little bit choppy, or there was too much narration, there wasn't enough dialogue, or there was too much dialogue, not enough narration. So we would work together to go on a chapter by chapter. And he was with me the whole step of the way. He would read my chapter, give me some feedback, and it really helped me out. So as more chapters that I wrote, the more improved my writing was.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's the same old, practice makes better. The more you do, the better you are at it. Now your day job that you had to work from home is completely different than the writing that you're doing. What's your day job?
I work in sales.
Okay.
At a tier one automotive supplier, and it's primarily in audio and high-end electronics.
Okay.
And I work in
yeah,
it's a little different.
It's completely different.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm not sure if you remember, but when I went to Lake Superior State University, and my degree was in robotics and control systems. So
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of very much my left brain is constantly fighting with my right brain,
right,
on certain things. But that's my primary job, is working in sales with high-end, electronics, and selling those to companies like Stellantis, Ford, Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, OEMs, and things of that nature.
Right. And did you pull from your knowledge of electronics? I would imagine so, because this whole world is that no electronics work.
I did, actually. There were a couple of things that I used from my engineering background to help me develop the story, because I thought it would just make it more interesting. And it was the only thing that helped me out too, is that when I talked to Boyd, he said, "Do you have any writing experience?" And I said, "No, I don't." But I said, "I have a couple of patents." And he says, "Well, that's close enough." He says, "It proves to me that you have some brains in your head." So, and that's where it helped out. But yeah, the electronics background helped me because I learned more about how to protect electronics from an electromagnetic pulse, not only from reading in the genre, but also where I could maybe replace certain electronics in a vehicle to get it running again.
Okay, so you're the guy. So if this ever happens in real life, I'm coming to you to help. I don't know how I'm going to get there because my car won't work, but I'm coming to you. Now, you're in Michigan now, but you grew up here in Sault Ste. Marie. How long have you been in the States?
I moved down here in 1997. Like I said, I graduated from Lake State, and they had a really good program, and it was 100% placement. So I was working at a grocery store near the beginning of May in 97. And near the end of the month, I was working at Fanuc Robotics.
Isn't that crazy?
So it was a little bit of a changeover. But 97 was when I moved down here. I never went away to school. I lived at home the whole time, which I liked. And I'm glad I did that. But it was a little bit of an adjustment moving to a different country, living by yourself in a real job.
Yeah, no kidding, right? You had to grow up real quick.
You did,
yeah. So being Canadian and now living in the States, how different do you think the world of the October fall, how different do you think it would it be in Canada than to the States?
Well, in Canada, I think it would be much more difficult because, and for two primary reasons, the cold, which, because there would be no more heaters, there would be no more, it would be very hard to stay warm.
Sure.
And then also lack of, everything's very somewhat remote. Mm-hmm. And then lack of firearms. There's firearms are very restricted in Canada. And when what's the term, the coin, SHTF, the shit hits the fan. When that happens, everyone's going to be kind of out for themselves.
Right.
And you need to protect yourself, and the people with the guns are going to be able to protect themselves, or they're going to be able to go after more people. So I think in Canada, it's going to be a lot harder from a climate and defense point
Right.
of view. And I'm actually working the Sioux into my current series with October Fall and about 3 or 4 books down.
Oh, you are working us in. Awesome.
Oh yeah,
That,
it's just a great area and great part to talk about, because you have the international bridge,
yeah.
And certain enemies flowing from the north back down through the Sioux. I-75 is a major freeway, and you can see if you read some of the other books, how it all kind of ties together. And there are crossovers in the October Fall world. Some authors work together to do those types of, where they share a villain or share a character. So it gives that crossover as well.
Right. I was actually going to ask if there's a community, a sharing forum of all the authors, because there's almost 30 or more books, so there must be at least 20 plus authors. Is there a forum that you can share your ideas in?
Yeah, there's a private page called Raventhorn Book Authors, and it's where if somebody's having trouble with an idea, or they even have writer's block. Like, I didn't really believe in writer's block. I never knew. Like, I said, that's whatever, And then I've experienced it where I just took me a week to get past some things. Sometimes it takes longer. But that's where, the authors go to for support, to help promote each other's books, to offer advice, and just to talk about other ideas. There's another whole nother world created by another author, and he has over 8 books out, Comets by David Saylor, and his is not only about it's not about an electromagnetic pulse, it's about a CME, coronal mass injection, like a big, solar flare from the sun that fries all the electronics, and that is a true thing. So,
oh, don't tell me that.
but back to your original question, yeah, there's a specific forum on Facebook that we have, and we used to do calls on Facebook, but then they got rid of that feature. So we're working to have a regular monthly call to talk about ideas and where everybody wants to go with their story.
That is so cool. And you know what? I do read a lot of these apocalyptic books, and I don't know if there's one that I've read a few in. It's called The Edge of Collapse. I don't know if you know it, but it does happen also in Michigan. And things that you wouldn't even think about with an electric magnetic pulse, because it was a pulse as well. And so there's so many situations that you could talk about, because electronics are in every single aspect of our lives. Was there one storyline, either from you or from one of the other authors, that you thought, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that?
Yeah, the original series that I read was by another author outside of Raventhorn books, and I really enjoyed it. And then, I started just reading more and more, and that's how I came across, the October Fall world. I have seen The Edge of Collapse. I've seen that author because I check all the ratings and where the books are rated, because that obviously helps out where your where your sales are. And I haven't read that one yet, but I have gotten feedback similar to what you said, Lisa, that even my wife said, I liked your book. My wife told me I liked your book, but it creeped me out pretty bad. And I have gotten that feedback from, random people.
Right.
That just send me they look me up on Facebook. My profile's at the end of the electronics book, of the digital version of the book, and they say, I really liked your book, but it freaked me out.
It is freaky, yes.
And it could happen. I mean, there is a public report by the Department of Defense that says if something like this did happen, which is probably the most likely scenario, that's why everyone's concerned about the nuclear missiles with the Russians, the satellites from Russia recently being put in space. But if that happened, and it's in this DoD report that 90% of the population in the U.S. would be dead within a year.
Oh my gosh!
And because remember, there's no more sanitation, right?
Right.
There's no more clean water. There's no more medication. There's no more hospitals. There's a simple cut on your finger could be fatal.
Right.
That's and then you throw in starvation and you know raiders and mobs and looters. It wouldn't be pleasant.
See, that's what scares me the most about all these apocalyptic books is the nefarious characters. Why do the robbers have to come out on top? I don't like that, Stephen. Can you make something? Can you write a book where the people who go to church and love each other come out on top?
Well, even in my book, when I wrote Castle Hills Fall, some of that is not, it's embellished, but some of those things somewhat happened. When the power went out in our subdivision and I had my generator going and it was outside and I was, making sure my food didn't go bad and, things of that, charging our cell phones because that's what's most important when the power goes out.
Of course.
A neighbor that I barely knew asked to borrow my generator, and I said, I'm kind of using it right now.
Oh wow!
And he said, well, I just need it for a little while. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm using it. And he got a little upset with me, and I said, well, I mean, you make way more money than I do. I said, why don't you go down to Home Depot and buy one? He says, oh, they don't have any more. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm using it for my food. And he says, well, I can't believe you do that. And I said, do what? I said, I have to keep my food going and
yeah, listen,
for my family.
Yes.
But he just assumed that he was entitled to it because he needed it. And it wasn't about, working together. It was just that, but this is good for me.
Yeah.
Why are you not helping? And that's somewhat of, the attitude I see, around certain areas. And now I put that story in my book. Now I embellished it greatly, but that was something that happened.
Right.
And it makes me wonder about what would really happen. Would my neighbors be my friends or my foes?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's so many things to think about. So many. Okay. So I want to hear a summary of, now are the two books that you've done, do they follow each other? Do they have the same characters?
Exact same characters.
Okay. So tell me give me a general summary of book 1 and 2, and then we'll do 3 after.
So in book 1, it takes place in a wealthy subdivision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somewhat of the characters are somewhat based off of myself and my family, but you start off with what you know. That's how you start a book, right?
Sure.
But now the characters have with the EMP happening, the characters have completely developed on their own, and I actually do have some emotional attachment to them, and believe it or not, but it takes place in a wealthy subdivision in Michigan. And what happens is there's, of course, the EMP happens, and the main character, Kyle, is he's pretty much just an average guy. He works in the automotive industry, like I told you, and he's a moderate level prepper, not major, but so he has enough things on hand to survive, for a while. And what happens is the EMP hits, and he has a few good friends that side with him and are with him, like it's called a MAG, a mutual assistance group. But
Okay.
What happens is that his own neighbors turn on him. They say, we need all your stuff. And there's a particular person named Tiffany who's head of the homeowners association. Because everyone loves their homeowners association.
I was just going
right?
to say, the homeowners association are always the bad guys.
And when I did a lot of research on this too, I said, well, I need to come up with something unique, something different. I just can't be something different. And that's where out of all the books I read, I probably read about 80 or so in the disaster fiction world. I never saw this. And I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. And it turned out where he had to fight off his own neighbors and, escape to one of his friends, farms to get away. But, most of his neighbors turned on him and said, we need your guns, we need your truck, we need your food, and we'll give you what we think we should. And that's what the first one's about. And it's also a lot of personal development because his wife is very nice, very kind, and she gets stuck up at Birch Run, 60 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
and she has to walk back. And it's, basically what happens is she has to, dig down deep. And I said, if she doesn't, step up to the plate, she's either going to get killed or kidnapped or worse,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of development of, normal average people having to turn into, defenders of their family, fighters, even killers to defend people off that
Right.
want their stuff.
Yeah.
And that one's called Castle Hills because the name of the subdivision is Castle Hills.
Okay. And so that's the first one.
Hmm.
So the second one, now
And
you're building on the characters from the first.
yep. And the second one involves basically it's good prepper versus bad prepper.
Mm.
So Kyle is out. The main character, Kyle, and his family and his allies are on this farm, and they're trying to survive, right? And granted, there are some preppers there, but there's still that element of people want what they have.
Mm-hmm.
There's a family. There's I guess I would say, redneck family that kind of starts coming after them. But back in Castle Hills, the HOA, and the woman's name is Tiffany, she partners up with a biker gang. And
Tiffany and the biker gang.
Well, yeah, and you'll see the connection if you read the book about how a wealthy woman who lived in a subdivision, one of the richest in Michigan, is allied with a motorcycle gang. But basically, she decides to become a prepper, but she decides I'm going to survive, but she doesn't do it through honorable, good Christian value ways. She decides just to rob all of her neighbors, the ones that tried to help her take over that one house with Kyle.
Yeah.
She decides I'm just going to, and then she starts realizing that I don't only want their food and their supplies, I want the people. She starts, creating slave labor.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, and you know what I find with a lot of these apocalyptic books? It's a study in sociology and human nature.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like even, if you're a Walking Dead fan, I mean, the walkers are secondary. Once you get into the apocalyptic world, the walkers are secondary. It's the people who you have to watch out for.
Yeah, there's a saying out there, if you can look it up, it's called 9 meals away from anarchy, meaning that if your family missed 9 meals, everything would fall apart.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That is
so
interesting.
In Castle Hills Fall 2,
right.
Yeah, so in Castle Hills Fall 2, you see she sees her own neighbors devolve into more bad people that were executives, people that were the pillars of society, and as you see them devolve into these every man for himself, and we're going to do whatever we have to survive, and that includes slave labor, sexual enslavement. That's what we're going to do.
Wow.
And that's where Tiffany takes over Castle Hills and becomes this warlord of this area with plans to expand even further, while Kyle's doing his thing on the farm. But there's but she, you'll see it in the first book, but she eventually plans to go out to the farm with Kyle and exact her revenge on him and his family.
Oh, very cool. So in writing these books, have you become more of a prepper?
Yes.
I would think so.
I would say that, yes, I have a little bit. And I read, there's a couple of different, YouTube channels out there that I listen to. And I also still read some of, the apocalypse books myself. In the October Fall World, we just had a few more come out. And when I read these, I just have to, rush to Home Depot and rush to Costco and buy stuff, right? And my wife hates it because she says, "Oh my God, would you stop reading those books? That $15 book turns into like $150.
Yeah.
Every time you read it, you end up going out and buying something."
Right.
So,
yeah. I would think so.
When I get my royalty checks or Raventhorn, yeah, there's a portion of that goes towards the whole prepping mentality.
Oh my gosh. Well, the more I read, the more I need to get a generator and all that, and start, I'm Italian and my ancestors hoarded food in the basement. So I think I should start doing more of that.
You can have all the supplies you want, but if you can't defend it, all you're doing is gathering supplies for the guy next door.
For other people.
So that's right.
Wow.
I mean, I know this may sound bad, but there's a couple of people I have in mind that I would raid.
I would raid that guy, and that guy over there. Well, we had a little taste of it here, of the, I don't know if you remember the blackout of '02, and you would have had. No, I don't think you would have had that in Michigan. It was more.
We did.
Oh, you did.
Remember it.
You do remember it. Okay, yeah. And the blackout of '02. I mean, that was a considerable amount of time. The most time without electricity that I've ever had in my lifetime. And it didn't get ugly. It wasn't the 9 meals like you said. But the blackout of '02 is the reason I have my firstborn child. So there was nothing else to do. There was no phone. There was no TVs. You couldn't go out shopping. And you don't realize the things that you can't do. You don't think of it, right? Like you think, oh, I'll take a shower and wash my hair and use the blow dryer. Well, there's no blow dryer. Your water will only last so long if there's no electricity.
And that's where water pressure comes in.
Yeah,
clean water comes into play. We had a really bad blackout here in the winter. I think it was last year around February of this time, and we didn't have power for 5 days.
5 days.
We had no power in our subdivision and other areas for 5 days. But my in-laws had power, right? And I was like, okay, well, this is what I've been, I got all my prepper stuff, screw everybody. I'm gonna stay here and tough it out for 5 days, right?
Yeah.
And I had my generator and everything, and I'm gonna be, and I still had to work. So I used my cell phone to connect to work, and it was after 2 days I caved. I said, I'm going to screw this.
Right? Yeah.
I had a little heater, had my generator, but the small little space heater doesn't heat your whole house. We don't have a real wood fireplace.
Oh, and it was in the winter.
So it was in the dead of winter. It was really cold. Mm-hmm. So I had a gas stove, which was good. And I took out a couple of MRE meals that I had because I wanted to see what they taste like and some other stuff to cook. But I couldn't concentrate for work because I was cold. I was so cold all the time.
Sure.
And after a couple of days, I said, I was like, screw this.
Yeah.
But it was the one thing that really creeped me out was I saw a couple of cars driving around, and cars that would normally not be in my neighborhood to get my drift.
Oh,
and it was, well, think about it. Your power's out. There's no electricity. There's no alarm system either.
That's right. That's frightening.
So I know, and when I kind of noticed that, so a couple of times I had made sure that I was went outside every once in a while, and I set my phone on my alarm, and and I had one of the dogs here as a good warning system. But part of me was a little concerned that I said, what if somebody comes in and breaks in the house?
Yeah, it gets ugly quick.
Yeah, and people are going to take advantage of it, no matter how good people are.
Oh my gosh.
People are going to take advantage of it.
So basically, people with anxiety should not read your book, Stephen, because I'm freaked out already. So what's...
No. I mean, I've like I said, I've never gotten fan mail before, and it was kind of interesting because I get these emails from random people, and I got a few hate mails too because the books were Christian based. And
oh wow!
Some people didn't.
Listen,
you're never going to please everybody.
If you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing a good job, right?
Right. Some people said, I hated the book in 3 pages, and I hated your book, and I said, okay, well then, feel free, don't read the next one.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of people said that this really freaked me out, and some people said they were having nightmares because these people they never knew of the disaster fiction genre,
right?
Until but because we were friends and they knew me. But a lot of people from Canada, it was most from Canada, to say this really creeped me out. I even got a note from somebody in the UK that said, I'm not reading your next one. This is too creepy.
It is creepy. No, it is creepy when you read apocalyptic, and it doesn't have to be like zombies. It's just something simple as the power goes out. And there you have it, the apocalyptic world. What's up for number 3? Now you're just writing it now?
I'm just finishing it up now, and I'm working with my good friend Boyd on this, and we're in the process, but it's really written from the bad guy's perspective.
Oh.
And that's something where I did some research, and not a lot of people have done it, but basically this homeowner association president, and Tiffany, basically she's kind of out on her own now. She's got to figure stuff out because and I don't want to do any spoilers, but she's out on her own,
Mm-hmm.
and she's got to figure stuff out, and she comes across some very powerful people.
See, I don't mind it from the bad guy's perspective, because you see how they rationalize it. In their mind, they're not bad guys.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, somebody said to me, or I think my wife said to me, she says, it's a little disconcerting to me that you can write that.
From a bad woman's perspective. Right? Evil. I know. Authors are a funny bunch. You can put yourself in the mind of anybody.
Yeah. And, and they have people like that for profiling, but the third book is going to be, it's called Black. Basically the HO. I don't want to give away too much on this because of I don't want to create any spoilers, but it's basically things from the rise to power of this very bad, ruthless
Tiffany.
Individual that started off as Tiffany. That started out as a homeowner association president who's now a brutal killer, and that all happened in a period of a month.
I love it. Well, you know what? I wanted to read them before our interview here. Now I'm definitely going to read them because it's right up my alley. Where can people from around our area, first of all, get your book?
They're basically Amazon.com is where Raventhorn sells all of their books. They're available digitally for a digital version. And if you have Amazon Prime, you get the book for free. You don't even have to pay for it. And authors get paid by the page that's read.
Oh, I have Amazon Prime. I'm going to do that.
So, and if you want to buy it, that's great too.
Yeah.
And all the books that it takes about a month for the book to come out on hardcover, because when you do the digital release first, because they're much easier to correct any mistakes. And no matter how much you edit a book, no matter who you hire, there's always going to be a mistake or two.
Absolutely.
And we get the feedback from Amazon, or sometimes people directly to say make the correction. So usually it's about a month for the paper copy to come back out.
Smart.
But the good thing is that we just have my paper copy just came out. So it's Amazon is where you can download the book. Like I said, for free if you have Amazon Prime, and you can buy it, and they're not expensive too. Even if you want to buy the digital book, the first book is usually $2.99, and the second book is usually $3.99. So it's not something where you're going to be paying $15-20 a book.
Oh no, yeah.
And that's how we stay competitive. But mostly, that's where you would go to download the book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. Well, it's the October Fall World Series, and Stephen Mezzomo, author of the Castle Hills Fall 2 and 3, coming out very, very soon. Thanks so much for joining us, Stephen.
Well, it's been a really pleasure talking to you, Lisa, and I hope we can do this again sometime for the third release and talk about the new series that I'm working on as well.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
Great.
I would love to do that. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to get into the world. It sounds fabulous.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And you said if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
I will. Thanks so much. I've been talking with Stephen Mezzomo, author of the Castle Hills Fall books in the October Fall World Series. Get them on Amazon.com or Amazon.ca. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Lisa Tucker. You're listening to The Book Cover on the Borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover.
Hi, this is Stephen Mezzomo. I'm the author of Castle Hills Fall 1 and 2, which takes place in the October Fall World by Raventhorn Books. If you want to purchase the book, please feel free to go to Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can download the book for free if you have Amazon Prime, or purchase it online. Please feel free to check out my podcast with Lisa Tucker at The Book Cover on theborderline.ca.